Thank you for tuning into the Punchline Podcast. My name is Lawrence Seretse. Today is just a beautiful day. It is an amazing day. You won't believe it. But I was quite excited when I was listening to the President Dumaboko at the Business Forum at GICC, where he was addressing the high-level panel for business people. Right now, we are now in an era, in a new governance where we have to bump our heads and think critically and make decisions. No more issue ya mediocre ya hona rira di meeting re boela ko tlase rira di meeting re boela ko morago. So basically he is not even afraid of criticism. You should come to him with the honesty and the criticism so that when he's steering this voyage, that is Botswana, abale armed with the right knowledge, with the right expertise, with the right honesty, decision. How refreshing is that? So I do hope that lelona harintse re bereka lelona mo pusong rona re le babega dikgang ha re tse re engage le rona ya be e le go leka gone gore re thuse Batswana gore ba kgone go tlhaloganya gore la kantseng gore mento a kantseng ke nga tsa ditshwetso tsa mohutao ya be se gore re tlo go checka hela gore a mme o ititiro a go kana ha o itse. We know you know your job, we also know our job. If we work together, then we will be able to deliver a very well-informed society and also help people participate in the growth. Like I said, today in the studio, I'm very excited, more than excited. Hole baka ke join ke motho wa mme mo thulaganyong ye malobane ke letso o mongwe wa le politiki yana wa ikitsa ke na go mmua ke mora ke re tla kwano re tle re tšhotle dikgantse because it is very important and vital gore re nne re na le batho ba bo mme who are going for leadership roles to come and engage with us re phuthologe mme ke raela gore o ska tshaba motho etso ya ka o bona mogolwane o tla go aenela tsela next time ke dumela ro tla bole wa ikitsitsala. So in the studio today, I'm joined by none other than a legend, a political stalwart, Mutsadi Warona, Margaret Nasha. How are you, man?
Very well, thank you.
So for those who don't know the legend before me here, leadership Gasebel, she's a seasoned Botswana politician, a former journalist like me, and a former diplomat. She was born somewhere in 1967, in 47 in Kanye, right? But what's amazing about her, what makes me also excited is that she began her career as a journalist, Botswana, before transitioning into the public service. And then later she became the High Commissioner of Botswana to the United Kingdom. Assume the first women High Commissioner to the UK, right?
Yeah.
You are not the first.
Mema Chepe was before.
Oh, Mema Chepe was the first. Thank you for correcting me that. So in 1994, when she joined politics under BDP, she became a member of parliament. She made history in 2009 as Botswana's first female Speaker of the National Assembly. So she served parliament as the Speaker until 2014, and then after leaving BDP due to some internal party conflicts and squabbles, she joined the opposition BMD and then later the Alliance for Progressive, where she has found her home until today. However, throughout her career, Nasha has been an advocate for democracy, good governance, and gender equality. She is also an author of a book called Madam Speaker Say, a book that tried to critically examine Botswana's political landscape and her upbringing, where women are trying to find their space in a male-dominated space. Menasha, I hope you are excited to be here in the Punchline Podcast, like I am.
I'm never sure what to expect meeting people, so but, thank you for having me.
Okay, that's great. You see, first of all, the events I've realized we don't have roads simply in our country. I believe that Haronso Hoya Pusho and Chartla developer Hela Emela ko si Homotlakatsela or Pakalaniana Pakia. it takes you an hour, approximately an hour, to hit the city center because of traffic. And when you leave Pakalan during lunch going out, it takes you an hour also to leave the city center because of lunch traffic. In the evening, if you are using the same route, when you knock off at 5, it takes you maybe an hour and a half. So my apology is somewhere veiled in between that our road infrastructure really does make it difficult for us to manage time. So okay, I apologize Sakopele, and even in the future for others. So today, how I wanted to engage with you, man, was really to I know there are phases in your life that you have moved on, that you really don't like to be opening that window and looking back at. But I want to start you here, right here with the immediate elections, which saw the UDC ascend to power and the BDP losing power. I'll ask you a question that I have been asking a lot of us when we're here. On the day of counting, where were you? What was happening, and how were you feeling when all of this was happening?
Yes, well, on the day of counting, I was at home. I normally don't do what some people do, which means staying up all night, already say the results, because it takes a lot of time. In fact, they take so many hours. The councillors, when I'm no battle come parliamentary, because really that's where change of government is. And I was sitting at home watching and listening intently. And had it like over ke ha ke ntse ke iposa gore na re go hagate go iragala ke bona hera ile gore he metlholo e ise go diragale mo Botswana ya diragala opposition e gather the membership mo parliamenteng hela a kere margin ke 31 so libile margin o ha o tla go tsena o bo heta ka kwa karthaka hey mokalobe o tsamaile go tse dipušo I was excited. I must tell you, I was excited. Me, after some days, kind of things sink in. After about 2-3 days, we put our taka, because I can confess to you and to the nation. Lahanenzere campaign ayana for opposition is tota in my head and in a lot of other people's heads, maybe the first step center, it will be to have a hung parliament, so that nobody can claim a outright majority. Step 1 and then step 2. That's what we were thinking.
Yes.
So it was just it was a shock. A happy shock.
Yes. You were in disbelief.
In disbelief, yes.
What just happened?
Mosadi o mongwe a ntare manager ka rona ne ke ntse ke rapella gore opposition e wine mme ne ke sa re jana. This is a lot. But
this is merciless.
We had to we had to get used to it after some days. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I've been just interested in asking a lot of people, more especially people I know were hardcore BDP members, right from the roots or from the yesteryears. Because sometimes I don't ask this question out of being critical. You know that people who you once loved or people who you once had a deep relationship, when their demise comes, because there are people who are saying to me, we are happy that we lost because we are the ones who did this. And Botswana needed new government. But at the same time, we are sad that we lost. because we didn't expect that we would lose at such a catastrophic level and all the likes. So, okay, no, it's quite interesting to know that. So, no one knows what happened. Except
Yes.
So, why did you leave BDP?
Why?
Yes, in 2014.
Yeah, well, in short, I had been feeling over a few years before my departure that I was really not wanted in the party. Dingwaga tse di hitileng tsele, the party was tolerant of divergent views. You could express your feelings and your fears or your whatever without fear or favor. Gradually, we became intolerant to divergent views. And I'm not a radical, no, I don't think so. But ki dumela mo goreng, when things don't go the way you expect them to go, you must voice, you know.
Yes. I mean,
voice
you've been
your
vocal and
opinion.
very straight about issues, yes.
Kabe ke bona hore, honali intolerance, which eventually leads to kilo hela ya hore, motho ke mathata hela. Now that sort of intolerance came to the fore. Haja nungena speaker.
Yes.
I think ke ne ka senya ka go tloga ke buela la parliament hore during my tenure of office,
Yes.
I want to see things changing such a way that parliament becomes independent.
Yes.
The way we know it should be. We are a member of the Commonwealth and we know how parliaments should be run. And I was very emphatic about this, and I drove the agenda leading to independence of parliament vigorously with the help of my MPs, and they were united in this thing.
Yes.
And I'm talking about really united opposition and the ruling party.
Yes.
They wanted to see that because they knew what I was talking about.
Yes.
And we took the first steps that we could take as a parliament.
Yes.
Now, that, of course, I think I had stepped on wrong toes. It really angered the government of the day. They didn't want to hear anything about that. Ray Mulom was still alive.
Oh.
Yeah, and he called me and said, do you know that how now similar persuade you to independence of parliament? You will not have another term. I know it. That's why Kiberakela Monaco. He told me that. He said, Kanana, I had immense difficulty because he is the first speaker really on our voice sources independence of parliament, but then he didn't have much time. So when I came in, I thought I would take off where he left off. But he told me, he said, one term for you, my dear. I said, yes, I'm aware, and I am working very hard at the end of this one term. Something at least, which is why we worked hard at the amendment of what we could amend, which is the standing orders of parliament.
Yes.
And then we drafted the policy and the law that could then take the step further. And they voted me out. I was prepared to be voted out. I was ready. In fact, if I were to tell you the truth, by the time the preparations for my removal.
Okay.
Hudugile mo ntlong ya bo speaker ba sa itse ka huduga mo ntlong ya bo speaker ka gonna ko blockade. That's the first thing. Ki change the pass. I had surrendered. I had surrendered my diplomatic passport and demanded my blue one. One of the 4 MPs in Parliament, Wakatli, Mabuse Pule, was still the chief immigration officer there. So I went there. I said, Mabuse, I want a blue passport. Wa boring ya no speaker Botswana, Botswana. I think it's and I've seen it in the past. As soon as somebody moves out, they demand the surrender of the passport. So now I surrendered it 3 months before. I moved house.
What does that mean? After that, they make sure that you have a difficult process.
No, you know, there is this thinking in our government, in our politics, that how a diplomatic passport hona le maemo mangwe wa bona o na le maemo ka gore you are treated as a diplomat how tsana ka go neelwa se care so I surrendered it 3 months before.
When you were moving from Parliament before they took your passport and you are aware or you are
no I surrendered it.
You surrendered your passport, yes. So what was the thinking or what was the atmosphere around then when you made those decisions? Was there aggression or you were already prepared to go because you knew that they were going to?
I was prepared, yes, because I knew that I was going to be voted out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now walk me into this. So when you left Parliament, did you join BMD immediately or?
No.
Yes.
The time when I left Parliament, I had convinced myself or I'm abandoning politics altogether. I'm just going to stay home and look after my grandchildren and do my own things. So that was what was going through my mind. But as soon as I left, maybe let's say 6 months later, the BMD people started visiting me, Bampolela hore nya, re kopa hore re join kana, we need also elderly people in the party who can advise us. Nkile ka re ke a rita, it took them a year. After a year, about a year, I said, okay, I don't want too much activity. Politically, so I gave in to they persevered until I agreed to join them.
So the reason I'm asking you that question was just try to get a foundation, because the following one was trying to understand your transition from journalism and into civil service and then subsequently politics. Or basically your ethos or your political ideology, what drives your political ideology, given that you were in BDP for a long time, with it behaving the way that it has been behaving until subsequently really you saw, or I can't stay here. What exactly differentiates you from the Democrats?
I think what you should understand is this, that I left because I was unwanted in the party, and I joined the opposition. I didn't leave and then join. I joined the opposition because they felt I could be of some use to them, and they kept coming, until I said, okay, me alone condition that I'm not going to be running around Kahore.
Yes.
So I joined. I was going to join quietly. In fact, when they did what is it?
Yes.
I had prepared notes saying, you know what, tota hela as opposition ha le batla go tswelela, this is what you should do. I would encourage you to do this, go this way, don't do that, don't do that. Until I got fed up and then blew my top. Komaru Apula. That was not my intention, but I was driven into that kind of situation.
So take me right back, because I'm trying to understand something about how you view politics and how you really understand politics. I've read your book, Madam Speaker. You came in around former President Kwet Masire. And I would like to posit that at the time, the landscape was different. And how the politics were and how people were maneuvering as a society and within the developing politics was different. And then you can fast forward between Mogae and Rekhama. There was also a society that's developing differently. You would see the rise of the middle class also at the same time. You will see the rise of technology. You will see the rise of the politics of, could you say, more economics and all that kind of stuff, different from the social kind of direction that it was back in the day. And and what we are seeing right now, it's a whole different transition. You look at the youth of that time to understand better what the society is thinking and what type of politics it needs. So, I want to understand how it was like now, working with him, and what difference it was working with others.
No, you know, in the BDP, a spirit of teamwork. You know, you knew you had a boss, but the boss was part of the team. No go sena mo e leng gore yaanong boss we emetse hale yaanong re ra botšhela. We felt we had a contribution to make. Not that I do believe gore everybody has a contribution to make in any organization. Hela jaaka le mo journalism njana. Ona le contribution e we dirang. They do recognize it. And we could, as I said earlier on, say our views openly without fear. But there came a time, how this intolerance, people felt they were not free to express their views as they were used to. Kana kotom krara. Go kile ga bo go buiwa. Go buiwa tota mo congress mo o bua maikutlo a gago o ntshitse matlo mo nkgapeng o irile chest out like they used to call me. Me halo tswa ha. You know gore it was all for the good of the organization. Go sena mo go tshwarwang ka pelo.
But speech.
Yes, as we went along, we started feeling gore go ha jaanong dilo ga di tsamaye jaaka rona re di tlwaetse jaanong na
ka go simologile le ngone
nya go simolola ga ile hela ha re mo ga ya sena go tsamaya
ha seno na tsamaya smarna le di
go
organizations
gradual no se ka kwa go le mo ga ha o no sa ile dilo tlhoko go no go le gradual ke ne ke utlwa re mo le fa bua ka go neela batho the power to run the party. We had the power to run the party. Which would be commendable, I must say. You cannot run an organization where people are not together. You have to be together in spirit and in everything. Kana ha batho ba ba se free to express their opinions bogolo jang tse di sa dumalaneng le tsa ba bangwe they start to harbor I don't know what to call it. They coil. They coil in jaanong lona le go bitsa bolope ke go coila in go mo gore yaanong ga o kgone go bua therefore le ha o senya ke ha o re ke itidimalla hela things go wrong gone ho ha o itidimalla hela because o senya mokgatlo kwa batho and jaanong ke sone se leng gore go mo go naganna ga gola hela until it came to that kind of confrontation ha jaanong ke setse ke a go bo speakereng e be na climax of the problem.
Jesus. So how ya go bo speakereng at the time that was after Machiepe. I'm not privy to how Machiepe, may her soul rest in peace, how Machiepe's, how your exchange of the baton was.
No, Machiepe was never speaker. If you remember, I don't know what baton you are thinking of. She was a senior minister of many years. Na kana ile harre kitsere mo gore Molom.
Who was the first woman speaker?
Yo Hanoyo.
And I was sure I was correct. Then you corrected me.
No, at that point you were talking about being High Commissioner.
High Commissioner. Okay, you're correct. High Commissioner. And then you're the first speaker, and I did correct that. So how's more speakership of BMD? And then BMD at the time was coming at a time when the umbrella was also being formed as a coalition. I remember I sat here and we mused around the formation of the UDC after BMD and all of these things happened. That was around 2016. When I want to talk about your understanding of coalition movements, us sitting here today being ruled or being governed by a coalition government. There was a lot that was happening in terms of the challenges of building a proper solid coalition movement, more especially around that time. Ne go eta go tsena go dua go sa itse re model o siameng ko he umbrella 1 umbrella 2 then khantile we ended up seeing the BMD lone is a succeeding. And then most of the people who are coming from BMD are currently, some of them today, my AP, Bolo Nayanam. So what were the shifting dynamics of building a coalition movement, according to your experience?
Cooperation. You must remember probably when they started talking about working together, I was not part of the system.
Yes.
Me later when we became serious about working together, this thing puso ha ka ke wa khona o le nosi o le party 1 and o le party 2, you have to work together. I can tell you hela gore, you know, working together, different political parties, different philosophies, different beliefs, different policies, it's not easy because you have to look for common areas and then you work around those. Or okay, if we are going to work together as 3 parties, what are we putting on the table for the people to understand or more? It takes commitment and it takes time. And that's what really I experienced. We went through that sort of thing. Lack of trust. Yeah, I don't trust this one doesn't trust me either. Those are the dynamics, and it's normal. You can expect that if people have been on opposite sides through all these years and suddenly you want to come together, it's not easy. So those were the sort of situations.
Trying to say that they should find cohesion,
Yes,
cooperate,
yes.
and all the likes.
Common ground.
Because you would have, for example, you will have Salishando is a very strong and solid individual. You will have President Dumaboko, a very solid and strong individual, not a person you can push around. Salishando as well. Then you have Ndaba, very intelligent, very quiet, more diplomatic, and more fluid. Where there are chaos, you rather say. And then where are the BMD? At BMD you had, after AP, then...
No, that was before. AP came after.
Jojo took that one and left with it. So mostly, and then you have the elder Remola Pisi, who was also who they like to refer as the calm leader behind the godfather. So trying to find a balance in all of these individuals and their characters. Le maloko, Rita BNF or Anzejang, La BCP or and too many competing interests.
Yeah.
So is it the reason why, as of today, we don't see the BCP in the coalition? What happened?
Yeah, okaba botsa bone gore ke mba se mo coalitioning, but I think basically ke yone kganyane ke go bolela kgantele ya lack of trust. If you don't trust one another, you have a problem. You know, sometimes as leaders, we want to work together here and there, but your followers will be hammering you. Why are you doing this? Do you really need this marriage of inconvenience? You know, and all parties can attest to that. It's not just a one-party problem. So we tell and sometimes you can hold on.
And
So
you're expected
really
to make a good decision.
Yes. So go thata especially mo makgotleng a ileng gore a ikemetse a na le di beliefs tsa bone to bring those brains together. Over described sentle. Salishando is a very strong personality. Reboko is a very strong personality. Ndabaneri is a peacemaker because he was always there in the middle. Me as undecided. If he believes in something, he can stand for it and defend the philosophy to the very end. You need people like that. I used to tell them, you need talkers, you need doers, you need thinkers, philosophers. All those brains are important. You need them to pull together.
You can't have commandos in all your
No.
Like we saw in the other time.
Yeah, you can't.
So you are in power now. So that's what now I'm interested in understanding. Where are we going? We are in a new ship. I believe we are still in the ocean. But from your perspective and where you are seeing, where exactly are you going? But you are also within the party. I do believe that you are able to ask closer questions about so as basically as a leader at UDC, how do you assess Boko's leadership style and his approach to addressing Botswana's current challenges?
To tell you the honest fact, if you take over a government and you've never been in government and you've never worked for a government, it's not easy. And I really don't care who thinks what or says what. It could have been, even if still necessary to BCP, they will be facing exactly the same problem. You've never been inside there. You don't know what to expect. The next day that you are a minister, you don't know what the hell being a minister means. I mean, what is the responsibility of this minister? You're going to start learning afresh, blah, blah. It's not easy. It's very difficult. So I expected them to go through a difficult terrain, which is exactly what is happening. And when you have a vicious opposition, BCP, it's not making things any easier. But you know what? It's good.
Yes.
That is what democracy is all about. You have to have somebody who can push you and push you to the limit to make sure you don't relax. For granted, taking everything for granted, think you were born to be there, and you make decisions saying you don't even care what the people think. Now that's dangerous. I think it's good that we have the opposition that we have. BCP.
Oh,
they have a problem. They are getting there. They want to find out what has this government been doing in this field, that way. People are impatient, and I used to say so.
We are
you know what?
58 years, yes.
When you take over this government, guys, don't think it's going to be easy, because people will be expecting instant change. And it doesn't work that way. That's why why don't you sack this one, change this one? You suddenly realize that it's not that easy. You are creating court cases, unfair dismissal.
And mutiny also.
You have to have evidence before Kabakuba. Ha go te motho ga itse tiro, wena o tshwantse o mo ipruvele gore ka nnete tota ga itse tiro. By doing what? How the minister? You give him or her tasks to perform. I did say, how do you tell him after a week about next after 2 weeks, and you always have to ask them, how far did you go? That's a sign or so you can literally say to that person, or you can write, you have not delivered on this, and you never brief until I ask you. Otherwise, it's not easy.
And I find that, on that note, I find it quite interesting, because when people are speaking from the political arena, I would like to say that the Facebooks and wherever outside of government, they speak from the party colors. Or they were voters, they are open card carrying members of a party. And I say, but you see, the problem that the leadership has is that it doesn't know who voted for them and who didn't.
No, you never
Those
know.
very same civil servants you have to find are your people who voted for you, or your voters in the coming 52 months.
Yes, you don't know.
And all the likes.
Know.
So you have to find a delicate balance, because you also don't want to violate human rights and labor laws at the same time.
That's absolutely.
It's a heavy task.
It's a heavy task. You may be harboring the same opinion and feelings, but the situation on the ground is such that you can't just do it like that. So they are facing a lot of difficulties. But you know what? Now I'm confident they will make it. I didn't agree with the 100 days. No, I did not.
You didn't agree
because Harry Trump, you can't just walk in and start signing things. And to take a bill to Parliament, go tsaya nako.
And you need
Therefore,
consultative.
you need consultation. So I think they are doing okay. How ntse ba ra re nya megale ga lo a dira sentle lo dirang jana ba reetsa ba reetsa. So I have a lot of hope and confidence that eventually they will make it. Kana o ska le balarra ha government wa tomokra ga tsa puso ka 1960 whatever it was. Bana ba romela makgowa, a whole team of makgowa from the United Kingdom. Gore ba tle go ba grilla ba ba rute gore go tsamaisa puso go toa jana, right from the speakership, the attorney general, all these key positions were held by makgowa. Ba re ruta gore tsamaiso ya puso go teiwa eng. Ba nya na re itsenela we are at the deep end. And
most likely the most experienced ones are your opponent in waiting.
Absolutely.
They can't wait for you to miss the step.
So it's,
now you
I
have
think
to figure it out.
The utterances they have been making, the issue of investigating tenure, which is really pivotal to our success, because this thing, corruption, must be uprooted. Once and for all. Jaanong ke dumalana the utterances tsa gore go tla tloga go tsena forensic audit, I'm very happy. Sengwe sa dio tse leng gore I'm very happy about ke tsone they are still uttering the independence of parliament, and that gives me hope gore nya re tla ya teng. So se leng gore ga ke sure ka sone ke so sa death penalty.
Actually,
simply because
those two because I have a guest talking about the issue independence of parliament, the death penalty, also because these involve laws. Who is a guest of ours who I want us to join us in this conversation. If I take a quick break, All right, Manasha, your guest. We are joined by Mr. Joao Salbani. When I told him that I'll be having you over in the studio, she was like, no, not my mother. I'm coming, I have to make sure that I see her. Remember on our last engagement, when I interviewed him, I was laughing when you were saying, I have so many mothers. And you were one of them. I don't know, man. How are you feeling to be here today?
Oh, good. I'm with my other mother, so I can't be bad. I can't be bad.
Yes. Well, so for me, it's much more like I was interested when I thought about having you together to join the other missing dot on the conversation about the Lehenza case during the time when BDP was in power and Khama was in power, where Parliament went to court to try and block the executive from usurping the independence of Parliament, where the secret ballot voting issue was concerned. He told his other side and the version of it. I know he was the representing attorney, but with you, I want to start right from the beginning. How did this start? What was happening until you got to get in touch with him?
Kana, I told you, I was pursuing an agenda that nobody wanted. Especially the BDP government. They didn't want it. So now my issue was, how are they going to vote me out? Not if or whether they are going to vote me out. I knew Yeah, I had even told the president, Rakamor, I know you don't want me and you want me out. And so my issue was, let me be voted out correctly, using the acceptable procedure, the democratic procedure of voting secret ballot. That is where the parting point was. And I was determined to fight that one until the last second, or I lose my breath. My son talked with this one.
Yes.
And Akiruna was just nobody's representative. Ghana, I had nobody to represent me. Ghana, the system of this government is that the Attorney General is the attorney for government and parliament, something that I did not agree with. We have to have our own attorneys in those buildings who will draft our laws, who will advise us, not this one.
Now you have this clash at the time, so automatically Attorney General sides with government, and you are left without a representative.
I was feeling for Attorney General didn't see things the way I was seeing, or not really that, but I think, I don't even know what to call it, unsure about whether they're trying to talk me into, no, let's not go it that way. And I said, no, I'm going that way. Even if I'm left alone. You know, I didn't even ask these opposition lawyers to represent me. They were there. They were ready. They could see injustice. And they came and said, no, we are going to represent. And they came here, Raelwa, mo parliament, no, over my dead body. If I lose, I must lose it in court. So when they lost at the High Court, and they decided to take it up to the Supreme Court, the Appeals Court, I was determined. You know, on the day that judgment was passed, I came carrying 2 envelopes. Speeches, one for if I win, and the other for if I lose. That's how very prepared I was. So when I went there and I won the case, I was even scared. So I read the speech to the journalists who were gathered there. And then we went in. For almost a week, Salvani. There was no government.
For longer. I think it was about a month or so.
There was no government. Anything could have happened in those days. You should never have that kind of vacancy, and there was no government, there were no ministers, only the president who had not been sworn in.
Was running the country.
It was sad for us to go through that kind of thing as a democratic country.
What does this mean, Joao? I mean, in all of this, maybe thanks for your intervention. At the time, actually, BDP did not win. It was the opposition which won victory in Parliament.
Well, like Mama's saying, Tabiso had called me, and then we spoke. And then the way things were going, it was the opposition parties were being excluded from the proceedings. And that's where we intervened. And then you warned me, and later on you said it at a rally, I think it was an AP rally, because I was sent, after my PI, I was sent the video of you saying, I warned Salbani that he was going to suffer consequences. So yeah, Nasha had warned me, and I think she was prepared for the consequences herself. But the victory was really, it was Nasha's victory. It was something that she believed in very, very, very firmly, the independence of Parliament. And I think that was one of the groundbreaking steps towards, we haven't achieved that objective yet, but it was one of the first major steps towards the independence of parliament and breaking it away from the executive. And so for that, credit is due to her. But like Mama has said, it was a victory for democracy. I think, yeah.
So let me interject there, because I want the both of you to either buttress this picture or dismiss it, because for me, having been a journalist for the past 15 years, and obviously we covered some of these issues, I had an analysis that for the most part, this is where the collapse of so many problems that had to do with this republic began. Right about there, because I think that was after, is it the Congress?
The BDP Congress.
Yeah, the Kanye Congress.
Yes.
Right. And then around the same time, that was when BMD also broke away from the BDP because of this issue of the executive trying to gain more control into parliament, and also trying to gain more control into the party and control it. And then ever since then, a lot of things to do with the BDP and the government at the time never recovered. Because that's where we see some of the things where a lot of you leave, and then we see things where a hand is forced to have a vice president of choice, who then became Remo Kgetsi and all the likes. And the rest of the history of the BDP up to today, we know it. I don't know, from your analysis and your best eye view, what it is that you see in the same picture.
Of the BDP today, I don't get your answer, your question.
I think what Lawrence is trying to portray is, so in 2009, 2010, you had the breakaway with Motsoaledi, Ndaba, Botsalo, forming the BMD, which then resulted in the internal faction or factional disputes within the BDP between 2010 and 2014, which resulted in Lahanza and the deterioration of the BDP, if you want to call it, to where we are now. For me, the BDP's death blow was getting rid of Motsoaledi. The case for Motsoaledi against Kama, I think, was a breaking point, but they lost all the young Turks. But Mama was there at the time, and you were privy to those events. We were outsiders looking in.
No, you know, there's always been this feeling or thinking that probably, just judging from the actions, Botswana don't see things. Things happen and they are not aware. Botswana are aware. We are just not a noisy nation. But you know, they will look at you and they will form an opinion and they will act. There has been this thing, thinking that Botswana are not aware, or because they are not that violent and vociferous about their ideas, things will just come and go. You are taking people for granted. If you do things to young people because you are in power, and you think because they are not talking too much, they will let things go like that, you are losing a very, very important aspect of the party. Those are the people who run around. Now we come behind. So once they form an opinion and they influence the other age mates, the majority of voters in the last parliament were young people. Everybody knows that. And my politics are Facebook. Obama won ka Facebook.
true that.
Never forget that.
And
Yeah,
also
but
what I find interesting is that the youth of today really have no connection with your liberation movements.
No,
your
they don't care about
BBP
that.
and whatnot. So they all know allegiance to.
No. Dilo tsa bo ka kwa tlase ga morula ka kwa, they don't even know and they don't care. They care about now and the future.
Exactly.
So that's the language that you must speak to them. They must feel or they are part of whatever is happening. Those are the sort of things that caused this disintegration and disgruntlement within the party, the fighting. You know, the BDP has always had factions. When I joined, I didn't know that there were factions in the party. I discovered when I was already inside there. And I remember talking to Rema Siro, why are you allowing this? And she said, young girl, that's what she said. He said, you will realize later, running a party is a difficult thing. This is a voluntary organization. Why don't you get rid of this one? And he said, you will know later, don't worry. You have to, even if you don't agree with people, just at least listen to them. That's how Rema Sire were successful in leading the party.
That's quite interesting. I remember when I was having a conversation with, Motsarakhwale about the 2011 strike. One of the biggest blows was generally that government failed to dissent from the enclave to come and listen to the people and try and reason with them and, you know, try to be democratic about it and diplomatic about it. It was just much more like, and that thing has been building over years. So Manasha, what is your view in terms of maybe the political education of the voter of today so far, given the transitions that has been happening? What do you see on the ground? Do you think that we used to preach voter apathy? But given what has just happened,
Let me tell you,
I don't know.
Let me tell you something. Now people know that it is possible to remove a government.
They've tasted blood.
They have never known that they had that power before. They just heard about it. Now they have tasted it. So anybody who goes to the government enclave and sit on their laurels and does nothing, you will be removed, maybe one term. You will serve one term and then the next one. They will keep changing. Now they know. So it's something to take seriously. Kana matata the ruling party they had been there for so long that I think they were shocked that things happened.
Taking it for granted.
Yeah, because
they're still shocked by now.
They probably are.
So tell me this thing. It's obviously, well, it's a tricky question. Are we here because people realize the power of their vote and exercise it correctly, or are we here because the other guy has been messing up so bad?
Both.
Could be both.
I would comfortably say both. Both.
Yes.
For the first time in so many years, the opposition worked very hard to educate the people and tell them, look, there is no permanency in this job.
Yes.
Ghana people used to think that, if we vote for BCP or BNF, where are they going to get the money to do this? Because they used to think that this money belongs to the party, not knowing these are their own taxes, you know. You know, Margaret Thatcher put it very, very well. One day, no government has money. We are holding money in trust for the people. This is the lesson that people needed to know. Halo nera tandabala hasimadia party kimadia lona alunzo loketa over so many years. So I think the people now are awake, and anything is possible. Anything is possible from now on. So that the thing to do is to be conscious of that and work hard towards winning the people over to your side.
So, given that, I think a couple of years there was a constitutional review, which the previous government says that it conducted a constitutional review.
Was there?
I don't recall being participating in anything.
No, that was a disaster. Yeah, a disaster, man-made, and I don't know what had gotten into the heads of the government to send a group of intelligent people around the country and then throw away whatever it was that they found from the people. The people had ideas for inclusion in the review of the Constitution. You know it, you were there as a journalist.
Yes.
You know what the people kept talking about is automatic succession. You know people used to talk about direct election of the president. People were talking about the system, the electoral system, how it should be changed, how parliament, they said all these things. Yeah.
So what did they bring in front of us?
Kastwana kwa tinkan, pudi atsela. Ene ya rebolela hore nya, there were certain aspects tse ba ne ba toa hote tse ga re di batle, tse ga re di batle. In fact, you know hore as this commission was going on, the president kept making public pronouncements. Hore no, that one election, direct election of this, we're not going to do it. So why send people around if you are already made up your mind? Huh? There was so much that they could have done. They didn't do anything. There is no review. This government here of today must do a proper constitutional review. And we have intelligent people here who can be in that group and lead the process through. We don't have a constitution. You know, it's just a piece of paper with a few things in there which give the powers to the president and nothing else. I once went to Kanye and ran a rally there, and I had the constitution with me, and I was reading section. Yeah, the president Okar. The answer, how none of those things have been done to reduce the powers of the president. That's a pivotal thing. Instead, I think they brought even more powers. You know, that thing, I didn't even bother to.
Before I ask you, can I ask you this question? Do you think that BDP, if it goes into the next elections, it will campaign by saying change the constitution and remove this?
I don't know. Why didn't they do it in 20 now? I have no idea. But you know what? They have started talking about the electoral system. You know, we should have proportional. We talked about this proportional representation, I remember very well some years back. Nereleko National Council, that college opposite what do you call it? On your way to Tokwe? On the left.
National Development.
And we were talking there, hey, let us change this system. And we were told point blank, nothing is broken, so nothing is worth fixing. Now they are talking about proportional representation because the system has done them wrong. Now I think we should do what is right, irrespective of all these things.
There was that attempt to amend with the electronic voting machines. Remember, you also attended that one with me. Hey?
Hey, I remember the electronic voting.
Electronic voting. There's nothing wrong with electronic voting. The only thing that the opposition was suspicious about was who is going to introduce this? How is it going? Electronic things can be
manipulated.
Can be doctored. Yeah. And we kept saying, these people, that is where it was coming from. But, there's nothing wrong with electronic voting if it is done correctly.
If the code is open source and the machines are stored in a specific way, all the parties have access to it, then certainly, and that was
absolutely
the gist of the complaint. But like Manasha was saying, Botswana don't toy. But that time they did.
Yeah.
After
on the electronic machines.
On the electronic, after the presentation of the paper, I can't remember if it was Buffet Puso. Do you remember who it was, Manasha? I can't remember who invited me.
It was a number of
unions. Yeah.
Buffet Puso was at the lead. That's when you got kicked out of the country.
No, I was already kicked out. I had already been kicked out, but I hadn't been PI'd yet, so the union invited me. And then we spoke, and then I think within a day, there was some demonstrations in CBD against the voting machines, and they were never introduced. So
trust. Yeah, there's a question of trust.
Absolutely.
No, it was very bad.
If it is a machine, that there must be an element of transparency.
Yeah.
We must all know, as interested parties, what is going on.
So speaking of all these EVMs and stuff and the constitutional review, the current government has been speaking quite a lot that the constitutional review process will commence and this and that, although I'm not privy to the details yet. But I've heard that they are definitely setting up and they are starting. Do you think some of these issues, such as the EVM, have to be embedded in the Constitution, or is it an issue that comes into the Electoral Act?
You should know as an attorney. Why did you
I was going to leave it to the politician. No, I think that would definitely be something for the Electoral Act. But certainly the Constitution would need to broaden the scope of the electoral mandate. We already see that there's a conflict with the law in respect of dual citizenship, because the Constitution prohibits a person to vote where they owe allegiance to two countries. And with dual citizenship, obviously, you will have an oath of allegiance to two countries. So there's things like that which are quite honestly relatively minor and can be changed quite easily. But there's much more fundamental issues like Manasha has always pushed for the independence of Parliament, for Parliament to be supreme. And I think that will be one of the critical aspects. And of course, I think something else that's dear to her is the right to life, and enshrining the right to life.
The death penalty issue?
No, not the death penalty issue. The right to life, which is the right to life supersedes the death penalty.
But no, of course.
Yes.
Why shouldn't that be in there? I mean,
no, that's what I'm saying.
Constitution like a book. I don't expect you to tell me that it's not there.
No,
when you're talking about human rights.
We don't need to abolish the death penalty in the Constitution. You just need to enshrine the right to life in the Constitution, with no reservations like what we currently have. But there's so many other things that the Constitution needs to take care of.
Too many.
The DCEC, for example, for it to be independent, parliamentary, protected by the Constitution, Office of the Ombudsman, same thing, press freedom. There's so many aspects.
And information access and stuff.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
In 2018, I authored a story, I think it was titled The Unlawful Parliament. Basically what I had discovered was that, I think it was 2018, that was before the 2019 elections. So we had missed the story in the during the 2014 elections. So in 2019, we brought the
there.
story forward. We put it together right before elections. If you check the IEC Act, it basically said right before elections and all of that, once after taking oath upon entering parliament, when you have been voted a member of parliament, they have to declare to the registrar at the IEC their
Expenditure.
their expenditure, their elections expenditure, anything above 10 pula they have to declare. So I sent question as to everyone who was sitting in that parliament. Somebody in parliament right now as we speak. And I asked them whether they have declared. I think it was only, okay, there was one person who responded. That was Winter Mulutsi. He responded and said he had submitted his to the IEC. Everyone else avoided to respond to the questionnaire. I mean, from BDP, from AP at the time, from UDC at the time, from, I don't know who else was the AP at the time, and independent members of parliament. They all ran away from the question, and then we ran the story. But the gist of it was that basically at IEC there were no financial records, not only of that parliament, but of all previous parliaments having ever declared or filed by an elected MP to say these were my financial expenditures. So it therefore allowed us to conclude that this has been a violation of the Act, the Electoral Act, because it proceeded to explain then what happens should it not be done in 90 days. It means that the people have to be ejected from. So since everyone had broken that piece of legislation, so they all buzzed down. I'm interested in bringing it up again, more especially after we spoke about issue of the independence of the judiciary, of parliament, and more especially when we have, is it an act that has passed, the financing of political parties. Trying to see, okay, we can speak about these in the past, there were missed opportunities and whatnot, but moving forward, what can be the advices to try and cap these gaps of non-compliance?
Your question is, why have people not done so?
Yes.
I haven't done it either. Even when I was running for Abroni Central here, the late,
What's her lady?
no, Kitso, the Mokoditsani man who died a few years ago. I didn't do anything. And I'll tell you why. And I didn't even think about it. And I think people didn't even think about it. Look here. How kakiware khotwe, let us finance political parties. No. And then you want to know how many bricks did they sell where, to who gave them money, and so on and so forth. We all are beggars in these political parties. Look, I need 100 t-shirts, please can you do that? Salvani gave me t-shirts, what for? When nobody else is doing it, you know? It was just there. Nobody practiced it. And if you do not agree, you don't want to accept for a political party to campaign, to win election, for the playing field to be level, we should all have some money that we can use to hold the top. And if the ruling party does not get serious about the financing of political parties and so on and so forth, then you have no right asking me where I got the money from. Huh? What if I did a bit of prostitution on the side? Should I tell you that I was doing that private business? No, it's none of your business, because you don't care about how anybody gets to parliament. That is the problem. So unless we get serious about this matter, it will just go unattended. Now, The flip side of it is that you will be asking money even from thieves. Are you with me?
Yes.
Now, if you are opening up yourself to being bought, being bribed, nobody will give you a million. Look at what Elon Musk has done there. You think he gave millions for nothing? He was expecting, you always expect something.
Yes.
Yes, in return. Now, if you are not in government, what can you promise in return?
But isn't it the principle of transparency says that the voter ought to know?
But I'm saying these are the obstacles. We have to be serious about it and mean it. But Harris is serious.
What is your take on this one?
I think transparency is key, and I think we need laws that compel all political parties to disclose their funders, and there must be limits on individual or private funding. You know, Lawrence, to take a controversial point, to take a woman's right to terminate a pregnancy, the right to abortion. You can have a person campaigning to the public on that principle and yet be sponsored by some church elsewhere, knowing that he's going to commit to the church that whatever happens, there's going to be no church, there's going to be no legislation on the right of a woman to terminate. That's misleading the public. So we need to know, because like Manasha says, there's always an element. It's not necessarily that if I give 10 million pula, I'm going to benefit in terms of some office, like the example that Mama used for Elon Musk. But certainly when I'm giving a donation to a politician, I expect him to act on my interests.
Yes.
And so the voter needs to know.
For whose interests were you representing?
Yes, yeah.
So given a society as small as ours, now that's another dynamic, because sometimes when you speak about these things, we need to also not just pick pieces of legislation and laws and debates out of context. In our context, with a society as small as this, do you think it's a practical, maybe not a practical requirement, but do you think it is a sustainable thing to do, given how small our business sector is? Money circulates around a few people, how small our infrastructure is, unless the government of today changes issue, but given how the landscape was.
We are a poor nation, let's face it. If I go to Mandunyane, or whatever village, I don't expect those people unemployed to be financing my political party. They will buy their own little T-shirts, you know, or caps.
Yes.
But there is no financial muscle in this country, in our small society, in our few, what do you call them, business people who have the muscle, financial muscle to finance political parties. I don't know how it's going to work, but a lot of thought must go into it. So, you know, there is this thing I want to know. We will look at the percentage of people in parliament and say, okay, this one will get more or something like that. I don't know how you arrive at that ratio, but what that means is that the political parties which are poor will remain poor forever, because Habana, the percentage of membership in parliament, they must think very deeply about how they are going to divide the money amongst the parties. What you must also understand is that seeking financial support for a political party or a candidate is not going to be 100% local.
Of course.
If I know a friend in DRC, of course I will approach that friend in DRC and say, well, send money to Salvani and then it will go to Siretse, and then eventually to my party.
So that's quite interesting. When you say the poorest parties will remain poor,
They will
together,
remain poor,
a
eh.
couple of months, I would like to say that statement prevailed, but now the tables have changed. The then ruling party was refusing to open up this opportunity for others. I don't know whether now they're in opposition that have big enough coffers to negate that statement that poor parties, or is it there?
Yeah, but it's a fact, isn't it?
Of course. No, I'm saying it is a fact, but I'm saying just in general principle, how the landscape has
That's why,
changed.
Kere, they must think deeply about how they are going to divide these funds among the political parties. It's very serious. Otherwise, the rich will remain richer and the poor will never reach anywhere.
And really, as a new government, we can't behave like the people who have just been removed out of power.
They have to think.
We have to be more democratic
Yes.
in our ideals, I think. We have to be more inclusive, and we have to think more for the individual and the voter and the people really in the peripheries of power.
I think President Reboko captured it nicely on, when was it, Saturday at the UDC Gala dinner. And he was in jest, but I think it was half jest, where he pointed to the audience and said, many of you would not have been here a year ago. And he's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
And those, of course, are key funders. But like you say, Lawrence and Mama, the democracy needs to not be focused on the here and now. It needs to be focused going forward. It's our children who will suffer the consequences of what is done now. The same way our generation has suffered the consequences of what has gone past. So, yeah, it really needs to be something thought out carefully, and political party funding is a very difficult issue.
Yeah, I missed the Reboko speech that you are referring to, but as we were coming, I was telling Lawrence, oh, you know what, there is more to it. There's a lot more to this than meets the eye.
You know, this money at
Ke mora
JCC
ke re
is-
kana,
yes.
there are so many business people in this country with monies. How ya ko go bone o le opposition? They are scared. They didn't want to be seen to be financing this party, so they will be giving a little bit of money, but behind there,
betray.
you see what I mean? I can give you 10,000, but please don't mention my name. Eh? Because you are not in power.
True that.
We understood.
True. And it was the reality.
Yes, of course it's really.
And you know, he also said something interesting this morning at the business, the high-level business meeting. He said that most of you are guilty of whatever we are accusing the previous government of having done, because you are sitting here in the very same room, either voluntary or involuntary, or consciously or subconsciously, you were not telling them this is not right. So I think he was closing by saying that we have to start by accepting that we are part of the mess. Then so can we be able to start fixing?
Yes.
Once we accept. But I was quite impressed by how bold he was saying it to all of them. All of them. Just like last year you won't be sitting here.
Yeah, of
He's
course.
never been shy.
Yes.
That's true.
So then there's an aspect of women leadership. When we started this conversation before we closed, when we started this conversation, I said there was a young lady who is in the politics, who is running for a position in one of the political parties. And I call her, I like your ideas. Come here, let's sit and let's break bread so that we can hear you out. People can hear what it is that your aspirations are and what you have to offer. So they completely shied away. I don't know. I want to start with that and whatever message you have for the girl child or the woman in leadership, because you yourself are a product of being in the battlefield with politicians.
I don't like that word you used, battlefield, but it's the correct word.
We all are.
People don't want to be in the front line
Yes.
in a battlefield. They would rather stay home and lock their doors and create whatever barrier from the bullets that would come your way. Politics is not a very clean business, I must tell you. Women have, there was a time when I went out of my way, recruiting women, back this woman has the capacity, he's able. Some of them even had the finances to stand for that position and that position in parliament and council. I was so disappointed because everybody was saying, And you know this saying, "Harizur le khona jang," it's a very familiar one. Kuhore women find it, or they choose to be home. Look after my children, you know. This business of being under the trees and people insult you, there's no privacy, they can even lie, and you have no way of proving them wrong. It's there, it's a reality. That's the first one. Hore, it's too rough and dirty for a lot of women. They would rather be home with their children and grandchildren, and not this mess. I'm a voter, that's all I can do. We tower they have the capacity.
Yes,
That's the
yes,
first one.
yes.
The second one, of course, is an element of inclusion deliberately infused into our laws so that there's a window should be opened for women to come into parliament. And of course, our male colleagues were seriously opposed to that. The second one, of course, is poverty. Women, a lot of them out there, don't have the means. And if your party is not financed, you have a problem. Kana monna, a man can go to the cattle post to sell 10 cows and tell the wife, hey, you can't do that. Let's just tell the truth.
Society.
I don't care what you think. I can't do it. We can go on and on and on. So this is a hindrance. So we used to go around telling young people, try. But they will tell you, kind of one time I attended a workshop where some young ladies were telling me, my husband is turning against me, or my boyfriend says, politicians, blah, blah, because it's always linked to all sorts of negativity. And if you are a young person and you are looking forward to getting married and having children and you meet these things, you can't proceed. We have to open a window through the Electoral Act.
To be deliberately inclusive.
And also our women, it's not going to be easy. It's not easy, right? You can go to parliament there, they will be poking at you. Even just to shake you. So how can why we send somebody low?
Through your lens, I'm sure you have seen what's happening in other countries and try to scrutinize it against what is happening here. And I want to say I've seen how other countries, maybe the few that I follow their politics, where the level of discussion of politics is,
Yes,
as opposed to
different.
Yeah, no go bitsa ko le roleng kgantele, as opposed to right where we are in the mud, like pigs in the mud, the level of political engagement where it is, where otherwise very bright and learned people would not want to go into the fray and make a difference because of the level at which our political discourse and engagement is. What can we do as a society to raise the bar?
You have to be patient, but I can tell you this. Don't ever think that the women in America, in Germany, in England are having it easy. They are not. It's just that maybe their level of determination is much higher than ours. We give up much too easily. Ballot, they encounter problems. You tell me why Matt Clinton couldn't be president of the United States. Simply because he's a woman, that's all, really. That woman is intelligent. I think it's even written somewhere, Angela Merkel, the German vice chancellor,
yes,
who did so well as a vice chancellor. That woman was brilliant. I met her when she was still a junior minister. I think she was in charge of housing. And so Hansa Tlatloga campaign, our campaign, our chancellor, he was facing a steep competition. You imagine in a developed country where now you are a woman. How do you expect to lead us? Only a woman. Who are a young person? You don't even have children. How are you going to lead a nation with children when you are not a mother? 3, you come from Eastern Europe. You are a former communist. Ronaha, this is a democratic. You can't. They dismissed her. But you and I know her. She was one of the best chancellors. But she faced those very condescending remarks from the voter. So they're having it tough. We are having it tough too, only at a different level.
That's quite interesting. Then I guess maybe that's why the young girl is afraid to come and start a conversation.
Mentoring.
I think I should give her your number. But you possibly know her. I'll say her name. Because, you know, I've had a privilege of being in Finland for a while. And I saw how most of their parliament and leadership positions are female dominated. And I've seen how Finland is always top in the stats in terms of development, in terms of what you call happiness index, in terms of corruption, in terms of so many things. Then when I was there, I was obviously just trying to interrogate what is going on here.
Or how come?
Then you realize one of my favorite things that I picked out, I don't know about others, it was about how their policies on family life and family planning, and their policies on early childhood education, and how they infuse that in such a way that you don't have to worry about skipping with no food, no shelter, good education, and all of that is none of your fundamental worries, which means, and then you get all these supports when you are going through Botswana and all the likes. It obviously says that even a child grows up a step ahead. It says that you are also able to compete better and proceed being at work, because the infrastructure at school and at home is designed in such a way that immediately after maternity you can proceed, continuously fit in. But it's something for you to check and research for yourself. It's there, it does exist. So just in closing, Manasha, before Kiakoho Joao, what advice would you offer the next generation of political leaders in this country, especially those willing to navigate the complexities of party politics and governance? It is a deliberate question because we have a coalition government, and we don't know what it will be by 2025 elections.
Yeah. To an individual, I would say nobody will recognize you unless you come forward. They have to come out of this cocoon and be there where the voter will notice their presence, will notice their intelligence, their utterances, or, this woman has something to offer. If you are just locked up in your room, in your bedroom, in your house, nobody even knows you exist. That's the problem. So be there, and they need mentors. How now coming to the government, the most important, I think, thing to do when you are in government is listen to the people. Consult the people, be there with them. Listen, don't just go there and tell them what you think. Go there also and find out what they, because they do have feelings, they have thoughts, they have ideas, and so on and so forth, which is why, Mr. Salvani, I belong to a church which does not support death penalty.
Oh my! We will have this discussion.
As a person, I think it's important. You cannot have people just going around killing people and then they go and eat 3 meals a day in prison when you have lost people. No, I don't believe so. But I think for us, as a new government, to do about this matter is go to the people. Find out what they think about this, and then make an informed decision. That is my position. People will say, Bato, Badi channel, my young lady, what's her name, the channel,
Alice.
Alice. Think that, no, you don't have to ask people, referendum. I'm saying, ask people. And if it comes to a referendum, why not? What do you fear from just finding out from people, what do you think, what do you think? You will be surprised. About a no, antara no. You don't have to do that. You can make a decision and tell people that that's not how I think a government should work. Carry the people with you all the time.
Yeah, I think I entirely agree with you because there are two sides of this thing. The people are just divided in terms of what the death penalty is like. I think on our last interview, they wanted to chop his head for his views on the death penalty. But you see, that is just his views based on what he thinks. But there are others also with different extreme views.
Yes.
For example, as much as we can talk about that, I don't support a situation where people just walk around committing murders and they get, what do you call this, bail.
Shooting
and then tomorrow
spree.
he's out here shooting again and all the likes, you see. But I think we need to thoroughly interrogate and inform ourselves what we would really learn as a nation. Kana, what are your views? Do you think that we should just... Or have your views changed?
No, they will never change. Not on the death penalty. No, I still think leaving the issue of the death penalty to a referendum. If it goes to referendum, the majority of people, I believe, will be in favor of it. Will be in favor of keeping the death penalty.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's a lack of information. The public will generally think an eye for an eye. You have committed murder, you must be killed. To use Mama's analogy. Why must somebody be getting 3 meals a day in prison? I strongly disagree. But I think that's the beauty of having known each other for the better part of 30 years. I personally still strongly believe let there be a legal challenge. Let the courts make the determination. That's what courts are there for. It doesn't put political pressure on government, on any government, whether it's UDC, BDP, BCP, whatever the case may be. And then the courts have decided. And that will be the end of it. That's my personal thinking. It's open to criticism, of course, because you're not taking into account the majority will of the people. But
because you see sometimes that's why we need a delicate balance. Sometimes the will can be driven by hate and anger. If you look at what happened to BDP is a result of stuff that has been boiling down in people's hearts over the years. You realize that sometimes also this thinking comes from the mere fact that the level of gender-based violence in our society is just too much, you know. So ultimately, at the end of the day, this informs how we feel about it, because as a small society, again, we are just distant relatives. You know, your pain is my pain ultimately at the end of the day, and indirectly. Maybe that's why we need a properly sanitized route to arrive to whatever decision we'll make as a society ultimately. So I want to go and have lunch and drink. I don't know. Do you still want to proceed with this conversation, ladies and gentlemen?
Haven't we said everything we could ever say?
Thank you for staying tuned with us in the Punchline Podcast. Today, my guest was none other than leadership, Margaret Nasha, who was our former High Commissioner to the UK back in the 90s, and then subsequently, after being a minister, then she left while she was National Speaker of the National Assembly. You see now how English is tricky. Well, she left when she was Speaker of the National Assembly. So by now, a lot of things have changed, as you can hear from our conversations. We are looking forward to a progressive government. We are looking forward to all of these changes to mean something directly to each and every individual's life. And I have hope. I think we all have a fresh sense of renewed hope. And I do believe that as they are here as colleagues, we all have a collective responsibility to participate in the development of the society. So heed your call, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Please silence and don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a comment. I will be with you in the other week again.